life. I started off in the Bethesda Pentecostal House of Prayer, and as a young person, I grew up singing in church, so I sang in different churches throughout my life. I lived with my mom and my dad who lived in different islands, so it was very interesting, my background. Grew up in church because I think I grew up in almost every church. I started off in Pentecostal church, then Seventh-day Adventist church, Catholic church, Moravian church, and now back to the Pentecostal church, which kind of brings me back to the idea that I'm not really into denominations now, because it's not about the denomination, it's about where God is moving. And I think the saying I've heard in my life is not every church is God's church, meaning that God is not about the denomination, but there is some of God's church in every church, which means his people is everywhere. Once you can find 2 or 3 gathered in his name, that's where he is. So that's how I started off in church. I got saved when I was 15. I think it was 1995. And it was Father's Day. And I clearly remember this because the day when I went up to the altar, I gave my life to Christ. I think it was Sister Bowen. I think it was, she was preaching and she turned to me and she said, God has given you a talent and use it. That's all she said. God has given you a talent, use it. Now, throughout that journey in my life, I started off doing worship, backup singer, and then worship leader. But I think for me, I was just kind of satisfied with that. And then really God had a bigger dream and a bigger vision for me, but I wasn't really comfortable with that. So I just kind of allowed myself to kind of stay in the background throughout the years. And, I've just been in church, around different churches, just kind of singing back here and there and everywhere. Traveled the world and back in Antigua now. Well, Amazing Grace, it was kind of birthed out of my devotions. Usually when I'm singing, when I'm worshiping in a quiet space, I practice a lot of solitude where I go on walks with God, or I'm in a very quiet place where I'm just kind of hearing God's voice. And sometimes I might be singing a worship song. In this case, I was singing Amazing Grace, and after just kind of singing the hymn, I just kind of went into an atmosphere of just worship. And then the chorus came, and as I was singing the chorus, the verses changed from what the original hymn was. So I think this song is a little different because it's the same exact lyrics, but it's a totally different sound. So it came out of my worshiping experience. Most of my songs, they come up from that. Either I'm seeking God or I'm praying, and then as I'm worshiping, a melody comes and I'm just singing that back to him. And then sometimes I have to grab my phone and record it so I don't lose it. And sometimes it just stays, and throughout the day I'm singing the same song over and over again, and it never leaves. And that's how Amazing Grace came. The process. This song, it was between this song and another song I wanted to record. I wanted to record a reggae song which is called Days of Man. And usually when I pick songs, I don't just pick a song. Well, I have about 14 songs or so I'm working on to record, and I'm trying to release each of them as a single to put out, and I'm kind of praying about each song. So as I was praying, I wanted to do Days of Man, and the Holy Spirit was like Amazing Grace. So I was like, always go with the Spirit. So it's kind of one of those things where in all your ways acknowledge him and he shall direct your path. So I always keep that in the back of my mind. No matter what decision I'm making, think about what God is thinking. Is this his will? Is this his song? What does he want next? Because really and truly, this is his ministry. So the idea was, after This Too Shall Pass, I wanted to do a next song, and I didn't really know who to record it with, because I was going to go back to Caden Studios, and I had done also King Jesus with Andrew Dorset. And I was speaking to Max one day, and he was like, he kind of guilt tripped me into this. He was like, oh, you're recording with everybody else except me. And I was like, huh? I said, you produce music too? He's like, yeah, I'm a music producer. I was like, really? I didn't know that. So after that, I was like, well, let me think about it. And I prayed about it, and God was like, that's the person you need to work with on this song, especially this particular song. And after a while, I talked to Max. We went up into his studio. We recorded a few takes of the song, and then we kind of changed the melody, tweaked it a bit. And yeah, the whole arrangement came into being where I would sing some of the verses. We had a whole choir ensemble sound that we wanted to make so it could be a worship team also in the environment of the recording. And then I was thinking to myself, instead of just going into the studio and just recording, how about you make it a live recording and bring everybody in a space and just kind of just give that worship experience and just capture that moment. And that's how Amazing Grace came into being. I want them to receive grace, to receive God, to receive, just to receive the Spirit of God in the music, because I think sometimes when we're writing songs or we're creating music, we're looking for what's hot, what's popular, what's gonna hit, and not really seeking after the heart of God in our worship. And for me, I wanted just to give something that was ministering to me, because I have a bunch of songs in me that just minister to me. I just sing them to myself. I never release them. I just hold them back. And now God is just saying, release them. Now it's time to share what you have in you. So the music that I have, I just wanted to give it to everyone so they can receive Christ and receive the ministry behind the music and really look to God, because I think really and truly these are the last days, and I don't want to be standing before God empty-handed with all this music inside of me and I never released any of it to share with anyone. So it's just kind of one of those things. When COVID hit, I was like, what do you have to offer? If God was supposed to come now, if you were supposed to die and you caught COVID, you had nothing. And I was like, okay, it's time to start getting these songs out. So yeah. Finances, yeah, because with the pandemic hitting, it's funny, I am gonna confess. When I got the job I have now, I'm actually a supervisor manager at a resort here on the island. And when I first got the job, I clearly heard God say, when you get the money that you're getting, the raise that you're gonna get with this promotion, use it towards your music. And I didn't do that. I actually took the money, I went touring, I went on trips and all over, like to Paris and to London. I was flying all over, like, yeah, I got this money, can go all over. I'm gonna travel, because I love to travel. And when the pandemic hit now, I got laid off of the job. And then I was like, well, I guess, I don't know what I'm gonna do now. And then they call me back. But when they call me back, they cut my pay basically in half. And God was like basically telling me, I'm still calling you to do the same thing. Even with less money, I'm still calling you to do the same thing. Record the songs we have in you and put them out. And so even with less money, I just had to just kind of trust God and say, okay, I'm just gonna release these songs one by one, as hard as they are, and just kind of keep going and going. So yeah. The grace of God is I don't know, I can't describe it. It's something that you can't do anything for it. You can't. God just has His grace. He just loves us so much, and there's nothing you can do, and there's something you cannot do that can turn Him away from you. Because I found in my life is that it's the moments where I was like trying to run away from God or trying to back away and say, God, I don't really deserve any of this. I don't really deserve to be on a platform singing for people. I don't deserve to be going on tours or singing or recording. And God is like, this is what I called you to. I didn't call you to just work at a resort and just to go about your daily life like a regular person. I called you to sing. And I remember growing up and wanting to be a singer, but I didn't want to be a gospel singer or a worship leader. I wanted to be like Luther Vandross or like one of those like Michael Jackson or Whitney Houston. Those are the people I was introduced to as a child in the 80s. And that's the kind of stardom, I was looking for. But God was like, nah, I don't want you to exalt yourself. I want you to exalt me. So yeah, I just have to exalt Jesus. I think it's the chorus. Actually with the verses are the same, but Amazing Grace doesn't have a chorus. And it was just kind of strange where the chorus says, thank you for your grace, your mercies are new every morning. That's just it. There's nothing, once you open your eyes every day, there's nothing you can do to deserve that. And that is so powerful that every time you open your eyes in the morning, you wake up, you take a breath, it's just a miracle because there's nothing we can't really wake ourselves up. We just wake up. We don't know how or what triggers our bodies to wake up, but we wake up. And that's just the mercies of God. They are new every morning. Well, I'm on Instagram, Rashid Walker Music. It's going to be streaming on YouTube. It's going to be on iTunes, Spotify, wherever music is sold online. It's going to be streaming everywhere. So you can find Amazing Grace if you need it. It's going to be everywhere. I want music to go as far as it can, and I think just having the confidence, I think most of us, we have confidence issues in the Caribbean because you're from a small country, from a small island, and you don't know if anybody's going to hear your music or like your music because you're just doing stuff for your church or for your community. But sometimes God pushes you and you have to step out and just trust Him and then see where the music goes from that. Because it's not really about, He's going to make the path for you. You just have to be obedient in your part and He's going to do His part.